In this video, I'll be kitbashing a T'au Gue'vesa. I've kind of become bored of the battlesuit focus the faction has had for so long, so for more casual games I've started bringing more and more infantry, to the point that I even own a full tide roll rampart, just for more infantry spam purposes. I already own 3 units of breachers, 2 strike teams, and 2 pathfinder teams, and a lot of crude, but I still want even more infantry. And to keep things fresh, making the Guevesa, I kind of like the concept of it since it fits pretty well as a strike team proxy while still maintaining the overall silhouette of the original model. If you bring it to a game, you can still tell what it is from a glance. So to build this model, I've used parts from the Tau Fire Warrior kit, the Breacher slash Strike Team one, and the Astra Militarum Shock Trooper kit. Sadly, it's the newer one. I would have preferred the old one because they're closer in scale in proportion to the Fire Warriors, but I can't find those locally anymore. This kit still works, but it's harder to kitbash because it's more monopoles and the parts themselves are smaller. They don't exactly match up with the existing Tau bits. Start the kitbash from the legs. I'm using the Tau legs as the base since I primarily want to keep that curved armor panel visible. It's the part of the leg that screams Tau to me the most. I've cut off the lower section just below the knee armor. And for the boots, I take whichever 2 pairs of shock trooper legs I find. So they don't actually have to be a pair, you can just get any 2 of them. Specifically, I want to try and match the pose or the angle that the legs would end on the base as much as possible. To test the fit, I used blue tack or whatever equivalent of that I have here to try and connect the boots and the legs. The first pair of boots that I tried didn't exactly align as well as I thought they would, so I swapped them out for another set. Once I found a decent match, I joined the pieces with green stuff and adjusted the pose until it looked more or less natural. I used a toothpick to try and smooth it out so that it looks like the green stuff is actually part of the boot, so it ends at the boot and then you get the Tau parts on top of it. Once the legs were assembled, I glued them onto the 25mm base. The pose didn't exactly match the original idea I had in mind, so I had to add a tactical rock from the leftover green stuff. One leg is standing on the base and the other is standing on the tactical rock, and that way I can sort of pretend that I didn't mess up the previous step. To finish off the base, I covered it with a mix of PVA and water, and I sprinkled small pebbles and this pink shiny sand-like stuff. You get it from any generic craft store. It's shiny, but once you prime it, it still looks like regular dirt, so it works fine. Next up is the torso. I took 2 random front and back halves of the Shock Trooper torsos. Some of them have a backpack, some of them have nothing on the back. For some of the other models in this unit, I've mixed and matched and either put Tau backpacks on or left the regular one on, or just put whatever other random Tau bits I can find there for variety. I tried to attach the 2 halves together and then put them onto the legs, but the belt at the waist of the Shock Trooper kit kind of gets in the way. So again, I have to use green stuff to bridge all of these bits together. Um, the green stuff serves as part of the waist and just a little bit in between the 2 halves of the torso to make them stay together despite the larger waist size. There will pretty much always be an excess of green stuff left, and since the torso is hollow, I just use a wet toothpick to shove the green stuff inside, and then I kind of try to blend it with the legs. For the arms, you could just use the Fire Warrior arms for not feeling like doing the extra work, but those don't visually match as well with the modern guard kits, since the hands look bigger while the faces actually look smaller, and it's kind of weird looking. I've tried semi-successfully on some of the other models to combine the Tau and Cadian arms, but it's kind of a 50-50 gamble if it'll come out looking like a mess or not. I cut up the Cadian arm bit so that it preserves the entire arm, and importantly the hand, and also the butt of the gun, but everything else from the gun is cut off. For the pulse rifle, it's the opposite. You try to cut off the arm, preserving as much of the gun as possible. After I've cleaned up the cut area with the hobby knife, I use some green stuff to hold the arm and the rifle together. And again, with a wet toothpick, I try to sort of flatten out the green stuff. Once the right arm was ready, I glued it to the torso. The pulse rifle was a bit bulkier than I expected, so I had to clip off part of the torso to make it fit properly. In hindsight, I probably should have checked this before adding any glue, but no serious harm done. The left arm was a bit trickier. The shock trooper left arm bits don't include hands because they're molded onto the guns. So to solve that, I had to cut the hand off from the original shock trooper gun and then cut the pulse rifle in half and carve out a slot for the new hand. After attaching the hand, I reassembled the pulse rifle and attached the left arm to the torso. It took a bit of a fiddling to align everything, but eventually it sort of comes together. This step probably could have been before some of the other steps. Uh, should have been planned better. Might have been a bit cleaner and easier then. And that was the harder part of the kitbash done. Now you just need to do all the decorative bits. On the left arm, I glued on the big T'au shoulder armor piece. I thought I could get away without having to clip off any of the Cajun armor, but after I attached the head, the shoulder just didn't look right. So I ended up having to unglue it, clip off the Cajun stuff, and then put the shoulder back on. For the head, you usually have to scrape off the aquila, either with a hobby knife or a sanding stick. But apparently I found the only head in the kit that doesn't have the aquila and isn't a hat. So that saved a bit of work for this one. And finally, you have to add whatever greeblies you can find. Because of the pose, the model kind of felt like it was leaning too heavily to the front. So to balance it out, I added this grenade rifle ammo, I think that's what it is, to the opposite side of the backpack. It kind of feels like it's being weighed down by it, which is why he's so heavily standing upwards. Other than that, I also added a pouch from the Tau kit and a knife and pouch from the crude bits. I wanted to add a bonding knife too, but it was kind of hard with this pose. If the pulse rifle wasn't pointing in the other direction, it might have worked, but there wasn't any space. So this is what I went with. And that's more or less it, minus any footage of me trying to clean up all the spilled glue and scraping off stuff with a hobby knife. I don't have any footage of the painting process since my setup doesn't work that well for filming painting. But for anyone curious, the paint scheme is pretty simple. Primed gray, painted everything pink, dry brushed white, Tau light ochre for all the armor panels, the helmet, the gun, some random Vallejo brown, I don't know which one it is. It's brown or beige on all the cloth and the backpack. Um, Thinned down army painter burning ore to use as a glaze to make all the Tau light ochre kind of have depth. That's on the bottom of the shoulder, inside the chest armor, on the bottom parts of the gun. You get the idea. The skin is a ruby skin, a dot of black for the eye holes, and then even smaller dots of white to make the eyes look like eyes. Um, some strong skin tone in all of the recesses of the skin, not the entire skin, because otherwise it gets too colorful. Want to keep some brightness left there. And a thin down dorado skin to highlight the skin and all the fingers and stuff. And finally, I think I just went over all of the cloth with a wash of either strong skin tone or Agrax Earth Shade. I think it was strong skin tone for the cloth and Agrax for the backpack, because they needed to look a little bit different. And that's pretty much the entire thing.